So we will wait for 1 or 2 minutes and then we will start the webinar. So let's start, everyone. We are good to go. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Didin. I am part of membership engagement team at NASCOM Mumbai. I, along with my team, welcomes you for this webinar. In today's rapidly evolving technology landscape, the role of testing is ensuring software quality has become increasingly vital. As organizations try to deliver innovation solutions at an accelerated pace, they are turning to artificial intelligence technologies to enhance their testing processes. This panel aims to explore the intersection of AI and software testing, delivering into how intelligent testing methodologies and revolutionary quality assurance practices. Today, we have with us four eminent speakers who will share their insights, experiences, and best practices in leveraging the AI for testing purposes. I would like to welcome Mr. Bhavin Gandhi, Managing Director, Infintrix Global, who would be moderating this session for us. Also, I would like to welcome our panelist, Amalesh Mishra, Chief Growth Officer, QualityKiosk, Madhav Bhadra, CEO, AQM Technologies, and Gaurav Shrimal, AVP, Quality Assurance and Performance, CitiusTech. Thank you all for joining us today. Before I hand over Bhavin, I would like to go over a few important points. As an attendee, you will be mute throughout the course of the event. At any time during the webinar, you will have to have the opportunity to submit your questions to today's speaker. To do so, just type your questions into question and answer link at the bottom of the control panel. Our speaker will address as many as questions as they can during the course of this webinar. Request you to be descriptive as possible while you list your queries. So without further delay, I would like to hand over the sessions to Bhavin. Bhavin, over to you.
Thanks, Didin, and thanks, NASCOM, for inviting us on this panel discussion. So as the topic suggests, it's an interesting topic considering AI is in the thick of things for all the wrong reasons lately. And let us try and understand from esteemed panelists how AI can be effectively used for the software testing industry, right? So I just have a generic question starting first. So I mean, to all the panelists, we'll start with Madhav, Amalesh, and then Gaurav in that order. So yeah, the first question is, what is meant by intelligent testing? And how can AI be effectively integrated into the traditional testing processes? So yeah, we start with Madhav first.
Thank you, Bhavin. And thanks, NASCOM, for inviting us to speak on this panel. So, Bhavin, when we talk about AI adoption, right? Before I start elaborating further on the topic, I want to make us perception synchronization. Because everyone, when they talk about AI, they will start thinking about Gen AI. And in QA space, there are small components. Then let us call Gen AI the super smart AI, and others are the smart AI. So QA industry has adopted a lot of other smaller intelligent components, which are also artificial intelligence in nature, yeah, because they are helping in increasing the effectiveness, increasing the productivity of people. So when we are going to, I am going to at least talk, we will be covering those are intelligent components as well as the some of the benefits that new generation Gen AI is offering. Right. However, when we delve into this topic, we need to understand a couple of aspects. One is we need to look at, first of all, organizational maturity level. Okay. So organizations are generally when we say an organization and end user organization who is actually adopting the testing. So for the simplicity's sake, let us say the components such as test assets, maturity of tech use, maturity of the people. So these components, the maturity of these component varies from organization to organization. So lower maturity organization, probably there will not be too many of test assets, reusable test assets. right?
Mhm.
People might not be trained enough. Whereas the high maturity organization would go for the integrated approach, is the very highly trained people.
Trained people, yeah.
So for the simplicity purpose, let us say low maturity organization as level 1 and high maturity organization at level 5.
Mhm.
Why I'm dividing these organizations into different level is because when we say adoption of AI component, the effectiveness of it varies, because overall organizational maturity also plays a lot of role in this adoption and absorption of these AI components, right?
Right.
So one aspect of looking at adoption is which level of maturity your organization is, right?
Okay.
Early adoption of or too much of investment into one particular technology without having sufficient infrastructure for other things, like you buy a super smart tool but your people are not trained, so then
Right.
you may end up into wasting money. That's
Absolutely.
why adoption should
Absolutely.
be as per your maturity cycle, right? Now in order to understand how to integrate AI into various processes of QA, we need to, let us say, briefly break the QA process itself. So let's say requirement understanding, then test scenario creation, the test cases and test data creations, the testing and reporting, broad
Okay.
categorization, and challenges and use of AI in each of them is different, right? Like in requirement understanding for QA, insufficiency of domain knowledge is always remained a challenge. So the top domain always goes to either development or the business. The QA does not get the top domain, right? So business analyst of top category will go there. The test coverage is another biggest issue in test scenario generation, where the coverage of testing is not sufficient, right? The third aspect is the engineers, availability of engineers, the quality engineers. I mean, with due respect to QA industry, the top quality engineers go for development work, and then you get either non-engineers to work on the automation
low level, low
and
skilled,
technology,
yeah.
QA side, right?
Yeah.
It's another challenge that QA industry face.
Okay.
And availability of reliable data for the purpose of report generation.
Okay.
Right. Now, if you look at how AI components can help in overcoming these issues, right, and how to integrate. So the latest technologies such as Gen AI, right, can definitely help in plugging the gap of business domain knowledge, insufficiency of domain knowledge in QA industry. So this Gen AI can help in reducing that. That can be definitely adopted into requirement understanding level. Even test coverage, Gen AI can help in plugging the test coverage level loopholes as well. Right. The other traditional AIs such as low code, no code, codeless automation, basically codeless automation, or maybe self-healing automations, right? Then risk-based testing models. Then you can say environment virtualization. These are kind of traditional AI we call. Right. So this intelligent component can definitely help in reducing the maintenance cost, increasing the efficiency of execution. Right.
That's great. That's
so,
great.
Like again, when you adopt this, depending on your maturity, which I covered in the beginning, the effectiveness of this tool will vary from organization. Higher maturity organization will be able to reap the benefits much better than the lower maturity organization. One thing which I want to highlight of these tools and the Gen AIs can help you in accelerating the maturity cycle. So if traditionally you may take 9 months to 10 months to reach from one maturity to another maturity, but if you adopt this technology, you can increase the speed of maturity. Right.
Agree.
Yeah. So these are my thoughts on.
That's great. That was a very elaborate kind of response to the answer. I think people would have loved to get an entire insight on how intelligent testing can be used in the traditional software testing processes. Yeah. Next, Amalesh, can you broadly
Sure. No,
give your
so
views?
as you rightly said, Madhav had a very comprehensive answer. It kind of covered all the elements that need to be. And I kind of agree to his point, right? That when we talk about there's so much of hype around AI and there's so much of hype around what AI can do. Everybody almost seems to think all the, industry analyst reports that uh, QA or quality engineering is where AI is going to disrupt first. We need to understand that, as Madhav pointed out, right, the QA industry has been in the past as well, been a fairly good adopter of lots of intelligent technologies, or we'll call it artificial intelligence, whatever. Intelligent technologies around, we used to do robotic test automations. We used to write scripts, right? We have been using software for improving software, right?
Correct.
You combine this with a lot of, new age technologies. Generative AI is one, but, a lot of NLPs, computer vision that's coming in around there, machine learning algorithms, neural networks, deep learning, right? All of this, what is happening in the hype is certain interested parties, whether would kind of would have one of these capabilities and just try to package themselves as a silver bullet for doing, AI in your quality environment. And some of them would essentially try to then be kind of capture all these technologies in an all-in-one suite. And that essentially is probably a lot of vaporware, right? But what we believe is there is an intelligent combination of all these technologies possible across the life cycle, as Madhav mentioned, to create a very good flywheel effect, right? All these technologies existed in silos, but what has now happened is a lot, you've started a great flywheel, right? I mean, with the ability to say, do codeless automation or, with computer vision kind of do the record and play capabilities so that you create test autonomously, test scripting, right? Test maintenance becomes much easier, regression, execution, reporting, but also, the machine learning algorithms around anomaly detection, right? Root cause analysis. These are now giving such enhanced powers to us in the quality engineering world that we are literally shifting our focus from being, at least at QK, we're shifting our focus from being a testing organization to really seeing how we bring reliable software, right? How do we shift from delivering quality as a point in time to delivering quality over the entire life cycle, right? And how do we help it deliver at a higher velocity, right? So we'll unpack a little bit of these as we go on, but I thought, this is how we see how AI is kind of getting through the entire life cycle. It is reducing the toil, it is improving the quality, but this is what is helping quality kind of graduate from quality to delivering reliability. And it's helping us improve the productivity of the software developers and helping develop software at a higher velocity. That's how we see AI in our industry right now.
Great. Thanks, Amalesh. I mean, that was very kind of an additional point that you had mentioned apart from what Madhav has mentioned. So, yeah, over to you, Gaurav.
Sure, thanks, Bhavin. So it's interesting to hear Amlesh and Madhav's point of view also, right? And Amlesh talked about the flywheel. So let me add a little more color and spokes to the flywheel itself, right? When we are typically we talk about AI, people right away go to automating and they think of the elements that can be automated. But the other element to it is how can you eliminate effort using AI and using it across the entire testing lifecycle? Like Madhav talked about various aspects of the testing lifecycle itself, right? So what I would like to add to it is there are three parts of it, right? So one is the shift left, second is the shift right, and then third is what I call a shift deep strategy, right? So shift left is, of course, you start from the planning phase, you understand the requirements. Can you use AI to create test cases? Can you use AI to optimize the test suite that you have? Shift right will be about how can you get into the production environment, analyze the issues that are coming in production environment, take a stab at the user feedback that is coming in, and identify what will be my functional, non-functional requirements for my next release, right? And shift deep is where you actually get into the code level itself and identify what are the various aspects at the code level which will using the AI that can help you analyze the performance security related anomalies and also maybe identify the coverage itself, right? So, uh, in all, if you look at the three spokes of this whole flywheel and look at the entire testing life cycle, it's not just about automation creation and execution, but let's holistically look at it across the entire life cycle and also identify the right use cases that you want to implement to achieve the maximum ROI. Because AI cannot be the like Amalesh was also saying, right? It's not a silver bullet of everything. So you need to really identify the right use cases where you can use AI across the life cycle.
Great. Thanks, Gaurav, on this. Yeah, Madhav, coming back to you. So you briefly highlighted the challenges that organizations face, right, when implementing AI in their life cycle, right? And you mentioned that organizations also, I mean, depending on the level of organization, the procedures change and the components change as well. So I wanted to ask you, what are the potential security concerns or risks associated with using AI in testing? I mean, and how they can be addressed effectively across the life cycle?
Right. See, the traditional components which we use for the productivity improvement, such as no-code, self-healing, library analyzer, or maybe reporting tool. These are now quite established technologies, right? And everyone knows what is going to be the output and what is the result of those technology use. So largely the concern of security is not related to all AI components, related to Gen AI primarily. So whatever we hear in market in general perception is concern related to Gen AI. And if I look at it, is not actually a QA or security concern. It's a general concern. Everyone, because people right now, technical people may be knowing how it works, but general people, even in business side, they don't know what is the technology and how it is functioning behind, right?
Correct.
And that is creating actually trust issue. It's more of a trust issue rather than security issue. Security issue is an outcome. If the components are not used properly, if you let's say if you rely 100% on AI generated output right now, it may result into security issue. But but it is not only security issue. It's more to do with trust issue with the technology, right? Wherever at in our clients, whenever we are talking about adopting Gen AI in test life cycle, the concern that is coming is related to confidentiality rather than security, because they don't want to at the moment they don't want to trust on it, right? So my take will be like these technologies, right, have effectiveness of 60% to 90% depending on maturity of an organization, how you have adopted, right? So using them as assistant would reduce the concern and would increase the trust level rather than using it 100% as the and anyway technology is not evolved to depend 100%, right? So so security would be a kind of an outcome of the over reliance, but if you do a right mix of usage along with manual human control, then it can be a very good assistant.
Great. Thanks a lot, Madhav. Amalesh, just a follow-up question on that. So how do you strike a fine balance between this manual testing and automated testing to achieve comprehensive test coverage? I mean, do you have some insights on that?
Sure. So I have a take on that. Look, I think we live in this age and time when everything gets, there is substance and then there is froth, right? So 3 years ago, everything in the world was going to be on blockchains. 2 years ago, everything was going to be on the metaverse, right?
Yes.
Everything job is going to be replaced by Gen AI, right? Or then by extension, as Madhav is saying, right? Gen AI becomes. I think there are different aspects, and Madhav quite beautifully laid it out, right? That when you think testing, you start from, understanding the requirement itself, right? And then you have your test design techniques and your, establishing your test environments, planning for your capacity, executing the tests, right? Now, if you look at AI and to the extent that it is available to us today and not kind of entering into the very theoretical possibilities of what it could do, you could have AI do, have a very good test design for you, right? So how to assure the coverage, how to balance, do the optimization. There are multiple techniques, without getting into.
Absolutely.
But it would not today be in a position to tell you which technique to use at which place. It depends upon human knowledge. Madhav also about, say the availability of domain knowledge, the availability of
Yes.
expertise on the application. Now, again, in the realm of theoretical possibilities, you could have a assistant that understands everything about, capital markets and how settlement happens at the back, right? But so the level that AI is kind of, mature today, we depend upon a lot on the human intuition right now as to determine how what is really needed, right? So for ensuring better test coverage, for optimizing that, for generating test data. So you are evaluating the generated test data, right? So you need humans in control, right? So just as so there's a question of trust, and I'm sure a lot of this will improve with time. I think a lot of the artificial intelligence technologies will have a sort of a, as they say, a U curve, right? So you'd continue to see a lot of improvement as we throw more and more, computing power, and we throw more and more broader, larger models at it. But at one point, the efficacy of what it adds kind of reduces, especially with relation to the cost that you would need to run it. There's a reason why,
Yes.
Turbo 5, they kind of stop the development on that, right? Saying, hey, if we take
Correct.
tokens and try to do it, it's very difficult, right? The cost of computing itself will outweigh where you, where what you're replacing is not worth it, right? So in many, what we also see is a lot of things is possible, but is it valuable enough for you, right? Current, right? So tomorrow there is always theoretical possibility we'll have, polymer based computing chips, and maybe that differently, all that stuff, it can stay aside. But what I would say is, domain and application expertise today resides with the human. I think the human is on the seat over there, driving seat, right? There are multiple test environments, say, that get created, right? And in many of our large customer environments, each of those environments themselves have multiple versions, right? So they will be testing two versions of, right? Now, as of now, I still don't know, and maybe the panel and the audience later can educate me. There is no good established tool that can tell me what to switch on where and what tests to run where, right? It still depends upon the human intuition that, hey, these are the test cases that I should run in this environment, and in the next environment, this is what I should run, right? So we do see, in terms of striking a balance, the more nuanced views where it is needed, the places where we need to kind of bring cross-functional knowledge, and kind of just taking a 10-second diversion, you have very robots today in a manufacturing plant, one that can, tighten the screw very well, one that can put in the, windshield very well, one that can paint very well. Ask one computer to do it, can't, right? One robot can't do all.
Absolutely.
It's in a stream, AI will become extremely powerful in a narrow defined domain, right? But the more the task involves cross-functional decision making, we believe humans will be in the lead over there, and will probably for the near future continue to be in the lead over there. That we believe is the goal. The goal is that how do we take the toil away? How do we take the toil away from test case maintenance? How do we take the toil away from test data generation? How do we take the toil away from where it is humanly not possible to analyze so much of data to detect anomalies, right? That's your machine learning algorithms or AIs will take over, and these nuanced cross-functional views are where humans would continue to be the one in command, at least.
Sure. Thanks, Amalesh. I mean, that's a great kind of, you can say, cross-pollination between what humans can do and what AI can do. Right. Coming to the topic of, I mean, in terms of Gaurav, right? I mean, since you are a pioneer in the healthcare space, right? So I believe anomaly detection and predictive analytics play a huge part in decision making, right? So I wanted to understand from you, how can AI-powered anomaly detection be employed to identify and address issues in real time? during the testing phase? I mean, considering that we need to have a faster feedback loop. And also, how can predictive analysis contribute to better decision making, which is very, very important in the healthcare space? Because if there's any, I mean, if there's a deviation of say 10% or 20%, it makes a huge difference, right, to the end result. So that's what we wanted to understand from you as well.
Sure, Bhavin. No, it's a very, very relevant question. And I would say it's not just healthcare, I think it's across all the industries. And let me pick up 4 use cases, right? There might be many more use cases that we can talk about, and it'll take an entire day to do that. But let's pick up 4 use cases, right? So first one I would like to talk about is test and code coverage itself, right? A lot of time what happens is developers are writing the code, testers are writing the test cases, but at the same time, there's a mismatch in how much coverage is there. Whatever test cases are being written, are they covering enough and more code, or whatever is being executed, is it touching on all the areas of the features being developed, right? And if you miss out on anything, on any critical application, you'll end up with production issues, which can lead to subsequent consequences, right? So that's where a lot of market leading tools are in this space. They are identifying how can we scan through the code, identify the right set of test suite, whether it covers the entire set of features or not, or even look at the regression suite and identify whether it is good enough to cover all the features that have been implemented, or is it just too much to execute, or is it just too less to execute, right? So that's one sort of a use case that might be helpful. On the anomaly detection part, there are actually 2 or 3 areas, right? Specifically, a lot of time we see automation suites, test suites failing as they are being executed, right? And it might be due to UI DOM changes, it might be due to feature changes that are there in the applications itself. And there's a lot of time that you end up spending in identifying what has changed, how it has changed, and how do I actually update the scripts, right? There's a lot of maintenance work that goes in the automation script maintenance itself, right? So that's where, again, AI can play a very important role, because it can identify what are those changes and help you self-heal those automation scripts. Third use case can be around defect triaging itself, right? So a lot of time there's a lot of back and forth between the developers, the BAs, and the QAs, whether the defect is relevant, defect existed in the past, why it has occurred, right? So if you have a defect database, AI can again run on top of it, identify whether the defect existed in the system, does it have a probable cause of failure, does it have a probable solution to resolve it. Again, and a lot of times what happens is the issue is not because of a application problem, or because there's a failure on the automation or the test case side itself. It's just because test data is not available, or the test environment itself is not available, right? So that's where you can take some corrective measures in the runtime to identify why the defect is occurring and how can you resolve it, right? And the fourth use case I would pick up is an auto failure analysis, right? So again, automation scripts, a lot of time they fail. And one side of it is there's a change in the feature itself, there's a change in the structure of the code itself, right? Another side is it can be due to environment issues, it can be due to some things not being available, it can be due to batch processes not running, or something else not available, right? And testing teams spend a lot of effort in analyzing those defects. In fact, in one of our projects I have seen in the past, testing teams used to spend 2 days altogether to just identify why so many defects are occurring when we are, or why so many failures are occurring when the automation is being run. So again, AI can be leveraged in such type of scenario, identify what kind of issue it is, and help save a lot of effort which goes into analyzing those defects. So like I was talking at the beginning also, right? It's not just about usage of AI in the automation space, but also usage of AI in the eliminating the effort that is spent on non-productive tasks, right? So that's how I would call it out.
Great. Thanks. Madhav, just to come back to you, I mean, anything on the cost implications of implementing AI? I mean, can you throw some light on it? How can organizations probably optimize the investments for maximum ROI?
Right. See, in terms of cost, as I told you, not only AI, but any technology, if it is implemented smartly, and if it is implemented right fit into your organization, then it is the optimum investment return that you can generate. But at the same time, the components on which you need to implement is very important. You can't just spend money on technology and not invest anything on process improvements,
Of
right?
course.
Or not investing anything on people for that matter,
Yeah.
right? So investment is needed in technology that you are adopting, processes that you are implementing, right? So that sufficient feedback loop is created for the purpose of optimizing other processes also. And the people, investment in people is also very important. Now, the tools and processes are something where you invest, they will mature and they will stay with you. But the last aspect, people, when you invest and they mature, then they leave you. So the investment again needs to repeat. That is where the fourth aspect of investment come in. And organizations should invest during this type of phases where the new technology shift is happening, right? Investing in right partner is very important, because that right partner will help in balancing the changes in all three components that I talked about, right?
Yes.
At the same time, investment needs to be measured also from business impact perspective. So if investment in AI components are not helping or cannot help in reducing tickets at the end of the day, then that needs to be analyzed and needs to be relooked at it, right? If it is not helping in reducing the TAT, then whether it is AI or traditional AI components I call for QA, they need to be looked at it, right?
Absolutely.
So all the investment at the end of the day should be looked at from a business perspective, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are certain smaller perspective of calculating return on investment, like increased test coverages, increased productivity. But at the end of this, all this, it should result into business benefit in terms of either reduced tickets, and or it can be reduce the TAT, because finally QA should not become bottleneck, or any technology should not become bottleneck. It should
Absolutely.
accelerate
Absolutely.
these processes of go live, right?
Absolutely. Makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah. Coming to Amalesh, wanted to ask you about strategies that can be implemented to maintain and update the AI models. So what strategies probably organizations use to optimize the investment for the maximum ROI?
That's an interesting question, right? Around, and I would say again, probably like probably one of the earlier comments, I think how you manage and, how you optimize, how you run your AI for testing is no different than how you would run your AI for practically any other thing. And so even if you have an AI for doing credit decisioning, or whether you or not you make underwriting decisions for policy, I think all AI models have similar sort of challenge, right? And the challenge for any AI model starts with because more often than not, the time when we start thinking about AI, a lot of it is powered by some sort of a machine learning algorithm. So there is some sort of learning involved, right? So whether that is computer vision, whether that is NLP, at the heart of it will have some sort of learning algorithms, right? What happens in most of these things is over a period of time, you start seeing a drift, right? And that drift is not a bug, but almost like a feature of the system. You want the system to learn and improve. It's just that the drift, if it happens in the right direction towards more and higher accuracy, you're happy with it. But a concurrent fact of that is it could drift in a direction that's towards inaccuracy, right? So, but given that these are mostly going to be some sort of black box models of AI. You're doing your job, but the AI itself is going to be a little bit of a black box. What you need to do is you need to monitor, right? You need to monitor regularly and check, the model accuracy, the precision. There's F1 score that is allocated to models. That's a way of testing it, right? So you need to see that the key performance metrics of your models kind of don't drift, right? So you need to regularly monitor it, regularly, check the thresholds and set up the right thresholds, put the right alerts. If those thresholds are kind of being violated, you probably need to take actions. Those actions usually involve, an ability to retrain the model, right? So at times you have to go back to the original data set if that was a good enough start point. You have to retrain the model again, right? You have to create abilities to, and this is a field that is going to, continuously
Evolve, yeah.
how do you, create a incremental update model to it? So it shouldn't, AI should have the ability to have incremental updates to itself, right? So
Yes.
monitoring, observing for, and there are, there are multiple tool sets that are available, right? That can help you control this, that can help you detect these drifts. So you need to have, so it is not about just bringing in the software, but then along with it, you have this whole paraphernalia of managing, maintaining your AI models itself. And when people talk about, okay, what's going to happen to certain job loss? Here's a new set of jobs that again, right? You'll now have somebody. In fact, even if you look at our primary audience today, right? A lot of them could think that, hey, everybody's talking, Madhav's created a company, a business, and he's talking about how, AI is going to replace and how AI is going to make things better, right? And so with Gaurav, right? I feel a little bit of an imposter here. But the reality is that every such turn ends up producing, a new field, right? Now we're talking about, and we've started, work with one of the leading engineering institutes, and working for certain responsible AI, right, with them. That is now while we are talking about, applying AI to quality, there's a whole field about quality of AI itself, right?
Yes.
So how do you detect for, the biases that kind of creep in, right? It could be ethical biases. There could be algorithmic biases. There could be biases that come from the data set that it is initially trained on. There's a whole lot of work that is happening in making sure that your initial models or the models, you're continuously observing it, because when these drifts are going to come in, when these biases are going to come in, is not known to you, right? And sometimes, there is this case where, I think it was Cigna in the US that refused somebody a healthcare, and they were saying it, right? They said, hey, our model made this decision, and they got sued, right? And it's public information. So the question is, here's another field opening up, right? Either you're going to spend tons and tons of money to perfect your model so that there is no error, or you say that, hey, at a certain point, I can't put more money into it. I'll accept the model as it is and manage the risk through buying an insurance for, model risk.
Absolutely.
Some
Agree.
algorithms get created. Some people will, some data scientists will have more jobs around it. What is undeniable is this move will happen. But how, there are multiple, uh, you know, disciplines around how you manage your AI model. And the one thing is, the AI model or any AI model, because it is applied at scale, always has a chance to inflict. I mean, one human tester making mistakes, what's the downside, right? Mistake, what's the downside? It's just, it is going to completely be very detrimental for your business, right? It could be dooms. Hence, the control and the focus that we need to have on managing our AI models need to be extremely high. And as we kind of, the initial euphoria of adopting the AI, comes in, I think we as responsible quality organizations need to educate our customers and our own workforce as well on the insights and how we prevent them. I think that's something we need to.
Great. That's great. I mean, just a follow-up question on that. I mean, in terms of an agile development environment as well, right? How do you do continuous testing and integration? So how can AI-driven models help you in continuous integration and testing for an agile development environment?
So I think it almost seems like, Agile and AI were made for each other, right?
Yeah.
What's the goal at the end of the day of an Agile process, right? We created the process so that we could deliver with higher velocity, right? At the
Absolutely.
heart of a Agile process is how do we not wait for failures for long? How do we quickly do it? How do we quickly deliver? How do we speed up the velocity of delivery? And that, as many of us have touched in the initial comments or the comments after that, is AI is the classic thing with AI is it increases your velocity, right? So whether that is velocity of executing, I mean, we focus too much on executing the test, but as Gaurav kind of pointed out a couple of times, hey guys, there's a whole bit of thing around test, suite maintenance, selection of test designs, what to do, what to take, right? And I'll tell you, with one of the largest banks in the country, right, which is a customer of ours, uh, we were posed this challenge. The customer is adopting a cloud-based core banking solution, right?
Right.
And the CTO's expectation is that, hey, I can now make changes to my core banking, to some features, product, something I need to roll out. I can do it in in a matter of hours, right? And then you can tell me that it's going to take 3 days to test this. Like
Right.
the investment that I have made in my cloud-based, fancy little tool on core banking, we're negating. Where's my speed, right? So I want you to go back and help me deliver this. If development is taking X hours, deliver me testing in probably X delta, right? How do I do it that fast, right? I think that is where, if you really look at it, to increase the automation, take away the toil of test maintenance, test selection, optimization, all of this, right? In fact, doing feedback on the code even before the code is committed, right? You detect a lot of these flaws, right, much earlier. Plus, when a failure happens, as again, Gaurav pointed out, when a failure happens, AI helps you do the root cause analysis much faster, right? Because it can look at a wider set of parameters and can quickly narrow down to where the failure happened, what was the trigger point, and what led to the escalation of that failure of the software, right? And it could be today very, very complex, right? It's not with infrastructure as a code as well, right? Everything is a code. You're literally dealing with stacks upon stack of software, right? And ability to and then this scales really fast for you, right? So how do you, as your software starts scaling, you need the power of AI to actually deliver to you increased automation, improve test coverage, right? With all the with all the AI techniques around how you can figure out what's the heat map of your application, where the failures occur. Also, how do you learn? How do you bring quality intelligence from how it's behaved in production? How have real users used and where the failures have occurred, and bring that back to the development life cycle. The holy grail could be that every major issue in production should in some way change my development and engineering. At that stage we think we're good, but this is where as you talk about agile, you talk about speed, you talk about better coverage, you talk reliability, and all of those are what we've discussed that AI can bring to the quality life cycle.
Right, that was really comprehensive. Gaurav, to talk about data generation and management, right? I mean, considering that the huge volume of data coming in every day. So how can AI enhance the test data generation and management? So if you could throw some light on that.
Yeah, so data is the new fuel, if you may, right? And Amalesh did talk about a lot of learning of AI models, right? That's where again data comes into picture, right? So if you look at the testing lifecycle, there are multiple aspects that you have to look at from a test data management perspective. So there's whole test data generation, so it's synthetic test data generation. There's data masking, there's data subsetting, data quality analysis. There's security aspect, and then there is this whole audit logs in the environment, whether whatever data is present on the environments, is it meeting all the compliances, is it are there any anomalies in that, right? So there are various ways in which test data management can be taken care of through AI. So if you look at data generation itself, right, synthetic test data generation, so you can feed in the models against which the test data has to be generated, and it can actually help you identify the right data, not just for the regular test cases or the positive scenarios, but also for the negative and edge scenarios, which a lot of time are missed out when regular testers are doing their testing, right? And it actually leads to some of the major production issues, right? So that's where it becomes very important. Data masking, and especially where I come from in healthcare industry, right? There's a lot of compliances that we need to meet because there is PHI data, there's HIPAA compliance, there's GDPR compliance, so on and so forth, right? And you miss out on one aspect and you're done. So that's where these models can be trained to identify how can you mask the data, make sure that nothing is being missed out. And it's quite an amount of effort to mask this data, right? And especially when you're talking about a lot of load testing, performance testing, that's where data masking plays an even more important role, especially in healthcare industry. So that's where, again, AI can come in, help save a lot of effort. Quality of the data itself, right? So there are three aspects to it, right? So there is this whole aging of the data, there's accuracy of the data that's being used, and then there's this data size. So all of this can be audited very easily using various AI algorithms. Whereas if you put in a manual tester to actually, or a test data analyst to analyze the data, it will take ages to do that, right? So that's where AI can help you. And finally, on the data subsetting, because what happens is, you don't, for all the types of features or all the type of incremental changes that are going in, you don't need all types of data. So that's where you need to pick up the right data, and that's where AI can help you analyze those test cases, analyze those features, and identify what is the right data and how do you subset that data to implement it across or to use it across your testing lifecycle, right? So these are the various aspects: data masking, checking data quality, data subsetting, and synthetic test data generation, and even auditing the logs in the environments to find any anomalies.
Thanks, Gaurav. So yeah, Madhav briefly mentioned about people, right? At the end of the day, it's the people that help in the intelligent testing or whatever AI tools come to the fore, right? It's the people that help. So I wanted to throw a random question to all of you guys and take your views on that. So for organizations who want to foray into the intelligent testing space right now, using AI, of course, from your experience, what strategies and best practices should organizations adopt to upskill their existing testing teams? I mean, Madhav, we can start with you, and then maybe Gaurav and Amalesh can pitch in.
So for implementing successful AI or intelligent testing, right? Generally, it doesn't limit only to people. So I will give a broader view rather than just limiting the implementation strategy to only one aspect of it. All right. So right tool, like Amalesh said, even Gaurav also mentioned, adopting the right tools and right processes and the right people as per your maturity cycle. Preponing investment into too much high tech will make smart QA over smart QA. So we need to be aware of that okay, it is rightly smart so that
Absolutely.
it can generate the business results at the end of the day, right?
Okay.
And second strategy, adoption of AI, which can help you in accelerating the maturity cycle. So if high maturity organization has access and resources for, let us say, top class engineers, top class business analysts and all, and if you are at level 3 or level 2, adopt AI along with your engineers and take them to higher maturity, right? So, and an engineer assisted by Gen AI,
technology,
right kind of bot of the Gen AI, which can help in plugging the gaps of domains, plugging the gaps of code quality, plugging the gaps of self-healing of the code, right? That can help in accelerating the maturity. And the third aspect is, when you are implementing all these things, you need to have macro matrix and micro matrix both. So that at macro metrics, like Amalesh just said, that if CTO is expecting everything product to be ready in 3 hours time, and if tester is going to take 3 days, right, then it's not
Absolutely.
going to work, whatever technology you, because product has to go live at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Agree.
Right. So having a macro business view, and then for increasing the feedback loop, you also need to have micro metrics in place. That's the implementation level strategy one can adopt. And the fourth aspect I already said is that since this is evolving space, right, having the right partner with you can help you in reducing the errors in decisions.
Makes sense.
Right.
Gaurav, your
So
take?
that's my take.
Sure. No, very, very, very valid inputs from Madhav. So let me put another perspective to it, right? So skills is important, and a lot of time the strategy that a lot of organizations adopt is let's get people certified, and I think and they will know AI, and let's put them on projects, and they will somehow make magic happen, right? So AI happens to be that magic wand, which is not necessarily the case. People have to be motivated to really start adopting AI. They have to be motivated to actually start learning AI, right? So that's where one of the best practices that we are adopting is gamifying the whole process, right? And it's important that you, in some shape and format, motivate them. So what we have tried to do is create a whole gamification around it, create a league around it, and this is a topic which cannot be done as an individual. It has to be done as a group, because as part of your project day-to-day activities, you need to identify the right use cases. You need to work with a larger group of people. You need to work with the clients to identify and implement those use cases itself, right? So that's where if you can gamify the whole process, make them learn AI, and incentivize in some shape and format, and through the team structure itself, if you can again help them identify the right use cases. Of course, the organization is always there to support them in various ways, right? But make it a more interesting process rather than just a certification process, is I would say how you can better the whole skilling aspect.
Amalesh, your take on this?
Yeah, as as Gaurav was saying, gamify it, suddenly what has happened is in most of the changes, what happens is, how many certification do you have becomes a game.
True.
So look, you know what I mean, whereas I hear a lot of views about and it's right, many technology advancements, right? A lot of things, a lot of automation. Uh, the technical possibility exists, probably the technical product also exists. You create it, but you always find the difficulty of adoption, right? It's a culture issue, right? And everywhere, it's not like it's specific to this set of practitioners or this set of this geography or this industry. I think everywhere, all of us have seen this enough number of times, right? I mean, ANZ Bank at the beginning of RPA, said they had created like 5,000 bots for doing some operation. Like, why do you need 5,000 bots? But blind incentives, so people just go on a path of creating something without ensuring that the adoption happens, right? So adoption is key. And whereas, organizations have a role to play, I, both as an individual and probably as a group at QK, we believe that, the ball is also firmly in each of us, in each of our courts individually, right? And it applies to everyone. It applies to me. It applies to every employee over here. We have to own our learning. We have to recognize that there are certain discontinuities which which shape the industry up in a different way. AI is one such. It's a very powerful tool, and we're excited about technology, but this one is one with very, very far-reaching effects. So each individual needs to own, right? So somebody who's sitting and doing a simple manual testing today needs to realize that he or she also needs to up their game, right? If you really, define your work as, say, domain and technology, right? High domain, low domain complexity, and technology complexity, low technology complexity. Because the low domain, low technology complexity jobs are going to go away, right? So we all need to either move the curve on becoming acquiring more technical expertise. Yes, the organizations will and the ecosystem will enable it for you, or you need to move into having higher level of domain expertise, right? Whether that's related to an industry, whether that's related to a discipline, but you need to get there, right? And if you're both high on domain and high on technology, the option now is for you to be a rock star, right? So we own our destiny. What do we want, right? And it is not a one way where somebody can push you to becoming great, or it is, and it is thankfully for us, we live in an information age where it is not impossible for people to acquire skills and on themselves. So I think as we talk about the responsibility of organizations, as we kind of touched upon at different times in this conversation, there are lots and lots of new avenues opening up, lots and lots of high value work that is opening up, and it's a responsibility of organizations to enable that transition as much as it is a responsibility of the individual to come onto this path, right? There the motivation that the organization will try to do, but you can take a horse to the water, you can't make him or her.
Absolutely.
It is a partnership. It is our partnership with our employees to say, guys, let's get onto this path, and let's move on to the high domain and high technology skill matrix for each one of us.
Absolutely. That's great. Didn't do we have open up to the questions to the audience, or
Yes, we can take ahead. Thank you,
Yeah, sure.
Bhavin. So let us take the few questions from the audience. The first question that one of the audience has asked is, what are the AI tools you are using in the testing industry? So it is, you can ask from anyone, or from the panel, anyone can answer.
So, see, during this discussion, multiple tools we actually referred. All three of us were referring certain tools, but since they were integrated in talk, probably they are not noticed. But let me just summarize. So, and the similar question is there down. I read just now that are we going to look at actual implementation of AI integration done in your project? So again, tool specific, right?
Yes.
So the first tool which we have experimented and implemented is Gen AI for the purpose of domain knowledge gap. Okay. So the testers are given an assistant bots for the purpose of reducing the domain knowledge gap. The other one, the same Gen AI can have been used for ensuring the test coverage, so that the number of test cases and the coverage is increased using these assistants. Certain traditional intelligent automation, I will call this, like for adopting the automation faster, right? No code automation is some of the tool which we have implemented. In fact, we have our own IPs which we implement across our projects, right? Where the automation is done without writing code, so that even manual tester can attempt to do it, right? And Gaurav as well as Amalesh touched upon self-healing automation. So these are the tools which helps in increasing the speed of execution, reducing the maintenance of automation execution, right? Where the script is healing itself for certain type of errors that it encounters, right? Also, there are tools which we have used for a duplicate test case identification. There is another question down the line is whether manual tester can use any of the AI. So some of these tools are useful for manual testers as well. So I attempted to cover 3 questions together.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you, Madhav. Thank you for answering all 3 questions. So let's take for another question, which is data quality is paramount for the success of AI-based testing models. How can organization ensure that the data used to train AI model for testing is diverse, representative, and of high quality? So anyone can take at that question.
So let me make an attempt, and I think Amalesh did touch upon it in one of his responses, right? See, trusting the AI models is very important, and it's not just about whether it's giving, and it's one of the things is whether it's giving the right response basis the right input that you're putting into it, right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a trust framework around it, and there are various metrics associated with it, right? And that's where the diversification of data also comes into picture. Of course, you cannot use all your client data to train the models that you are creating, so you'll have to identify the right data basis, the industry experience that you have, and we have it in healthcare. Amalesh has it in multiple industries, same way Madhav has it in multiple industries, right? So all our organizations are making an attempt to identify the right data, as well as there are organizations who provide you enough and more data, which is not client specific data, but they have created their own data to train these large language models in case of Gen AI and various other models in case of other AI solutions that are there, right? But yes, diversification of the data is important. You'll have to have a trust framework which takes care of various metrics that are associated with making sure that you're not you do not have a bias in the data that you are putting into it, right? So that's critical.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav, for answering that questions. We can take another question. What are the prerequisite needs to look at? And if we have the existing automation pack, and if I would like to integrate with the AI, how we can do that practically as well, how it is beneficial? Anyone from the panel can answer that?
Yeah, I'll again make an attempt to it. See, again, as I was saying at the beginning of the session as well, right? You need to identify the right use cases. Now, existing automation pack, is it too big and that's why you want to optimize it? Does it have enough coverage and that's why you want to use AI? Or is it breaking too often and that's why you want to use AI? Or does it not have the right test data and hence you want to use AI, right? Or
Yes.
does it not have enough functional and non-functional requirements covered? Is it does it has only functional coverage, does not have non-functional coverage, and that's where you want to use AI, right? So it's important first that you identify the right use case, and then you identify what is the solution that you want to implement, and also how do you want to integrate it into your whole automation solution. And that's where the whole integration into CI/CD comes into picture, and the usage of continuous testing across the agile DevOps lifecycle also comes into picture, right? So identification of the use cases is going to be important before you even start finding right AI solution for it.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. We can take another question, which is AI-driven testing has the potential to augment human testers rather than replace them entirely. How can organizations strike the right balance between human expertise and AI automation in testing processes to maximize the efficiency and its effectiveness? Anyone can from the panel answer that?
So let me take that. So here's the thing, right? I think a lot of us have been talking about the importance of context, right? So in every situation that we face, I think the context is important for all these decisions, right?
Okay.
We all said, hey, AI is not a fix-all thing for anyone. AI is not necessarily superior in every situation. At the end of the day, your context defines what is important for you and how you should leverage that mix, right? So for certain organizations, we took an example of an organization where the paramount importance was velocity, right?
Right.
Certain other organizations will have paramount importance. They say it's okay to be slow, but I can't fail, right? So they put a lot of importance on elimination of failure. So, and which Gaurav touched upon, right? For those organizations, including the human in the loop to ensure that there's both a data-driven, AI-led approach into, say, evaluating your test coverage versus the human intuition of making sure that you're selecting the right pack, right? Now, where the domain expertise, the application expertise becomes important, right? You need to find, so what is important to you defines how much human versus AI plays a role in your context, and what outcome are you really trying to achieve? The holy grail for software is, and it's kind of what is my velocity versus my reliability. It's defined in terms of the industry defines it as an error budget now, right? So do I have the right error budget? It's a human who's going to decide that, right? I don't think yet algorithms define what is the right error budget in the context of an organization, right? Now, error budget doesn't necessarily mean I spend less than my budget is a great thing. Obviously, breaking my budget is a bad thing. But how close am I to my budget? Just like all sales and business leaders over here will know the importance of sticking to budget. That's the same over here, right? But the definition of a budget is an art. What my error budget, right? Then defining how fast I go, because I've done 3 releases, I have enough left. I could push for more. I can increase my velocity in that cycle, and I could still be good because the business is good with this much error that I can think of, right? The risks that I bring. So there are many areas where I think the human intuition still has a huge role to play. And there are some areas where as we all have been saying, right? It is human. There are those are new areas that augment our capability, right? Our capability of doing time series analysis across 60 elements is just not there. You have to have an AI for that, right? We must realize where our strengths are. And I think we all of us touched upon that question earlier as well, when we were talking about how we help upskill our people, and how we kind of keep them relevant in today's scenario. We said that you have to look at high domain and high technical complexity, right? So tasks that are cross-functional in nature continues to be human dominated. Tasks that have human intuition involved continues to remain human dominated. Though that's the play each organization will make for itself. And there's no one size fits all. It's on our context that we choose what's good for us.
Thank you, Amalesh. I will take another question now. It is specifically mentioned, how does domain knowledge boots work? Have you trained models with those boots? Can Madhav share a few more depth on that topic? It's specifically asked with Mr. Madhav.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, given time constraint, I will just briefly touch upon one more time. And if more detail is needed, then you will be sharing my detail with them for getting in touch for further discussion. But in terms of domain knowledge, what we have done in terms of implementation is that we have created an interface board, which interface between testers and AI. Okay, so as to provide a standardized interface to AI, so that the output which is generated is also structured and which can be utilized for further processing, right? So in terms of implementation, this is what we have done. And if I put it into the effectiveness measurement perspective, right now the effectiveness is maybe it is helping us in increasing the coverage up to 20%. Not because 80%, the person also have to be aware about it, and this assistant bot are actually helping in just adding the approximately 20% coverage.
Thank you. I will take another question, and then we will go ahead with the last question now due to time constraint. So the another question is, script healing might fail for multiple reasons, even with the AI powering the healing process. Meanings are these tools are reliable enough to invest in? That's one of the questions that one of the member has asked. Anyone can answer for this question?
I think this is an extension of one of the things that I mentioned about, right, auto failure analysis. So, and that's exactly what I mentioned in my discussion as well, right? So it can be due to multiple reasons, and it's not that the whole model will be accurate on day one. It will get trained over a period of time. So day one, the accuracy might be 20%, 30%, but over a period of time, as it identifies more scenarios where the automation script execution is failing, the model will get trained on it, and then over a period of time, it will definitely improve, right? And the accuracy can reach up to 70 to 80 to 90% also in certain cases. But and a lot of these AI models are dependent on the data. As I was saying, data is the fuel. The more data you train it with, the better results you get, the more accurate results you get, right? And that's what is going to play the important role when you are working with AI in today's world.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. This would be the last question for this time frame that we can take right now. So the last question is how AI will be implemented into our current project frame. Example, robot framework, hybrid framework, These are some of the names that has been mentioned. So anyone can answer from the panel?
So I think how it will be integrated, I mean, if you're looking for a technical answer to that, maybe some of the other panelists are best suited. But as I said, I thought this is what we discussed a lot in our conversation so far, is how do you really achieve that golden mean on your context, right? As to what you integrate and where you integrate. Now, robo frameworks and using whatever, right? Computer vision for your for test case generation, or as you navigate through applications to do record and plays, etc. I think it's just one of the tools, right? It's just one of the abilities for it will depend upon the context that your individual project has and what is the end goal you're trying to achieve with AI, right? Will it be AI for AI's sake, or will it be AI because it delivers any outcome that you need? Madhav touched in the opening comment itself that, guys, don't think that AI is the first time that a lot of benefits of technology is coming to the QA world, right? In discrete AIs in different forms, you couldn't call it traditional intelligence, natural smartness, whatever, right? There has been many good processes and many automation technologies that have been implemented. As I said, it depends upon what the specific context of your project is that you will choose which way to integrate AI into your systems. What it can do for you is undeniable. So if we think that AI cannot, it's a very rare situation where AI will not be able to influence. It's a very rare situation where AI will completely 100% change everything, right? The truth lies somewhere in between on your context.
Thank you, Amalesh. So with this, we will wind up the question and answer segment right now. I once again thank you, our speakers and our audience. We are sure it was informative and insightful session. Please do help us with the feedback post this webinar. For any further queries, or in case of any query couldn't be answered in the interest of time, please drop mail at mumbai@nascom.in and our team will get in touch soon with you. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, thank you.